Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League, second leg quarterfinals. We have our dream team, Dani, Fisichella, Alvaro, Romeo, to analyze these four games. Ciao, Dani.
Ciao.
Ciao, Alvaro. Actually,
Hola.
Dani was very correct so far in his predictions for the semifinalists. We have to wait, of course, what is going to happen this week. Everything is open, especially in that Milan-Napoli. So let's not waste any time. Let's analyze the games. Guys, remember, of course, to leave your comments telling us your tips and your comments. Press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. And in your tips, you were basically correct in the first game. We are going to analyze Chelsea-Real Madrid because we expected Real Madrid to be better than Chelsea. We expected Vinicius to be crucial in that game. He was named the MVP of the game, and nothing has changed in 1 week. Actually, Chelsea is getting even worse, according to what we saw in the Premier League against Brighton. And Alvaro, Real Madrid got a good victory in La Liga, but apart from that game with Vinicius and Kroos resting, we saw a very good Real Madrid in the first leg at Bernabeu.
We did. I think that the best thing that Real Madrid did collectively, and after thinking about it now, is probably the pressure up front. That's something that I wasn't expecting with a side with Toni Kroos and Luka Modric in the lineup. But the truth is that they pressed with a lot of intensity, and Chelsea was smothered from the 10th minute onward until the end of the game. I think Real Madrid should have won it for a bigger margin, but that didn't happen. Karim Benzema missed the chance. It wasn't easy, but his header went over the crossbar, and I think Real Madrid should be anyway happy with the 2-0 coming in Stamford Bridge, because I think that they are a better side than Chelsea. Simple as that. They beat Cadiz in the weekend, Real Madrid. I said that Marco Asensio was going to score, and he did score. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong, but I think that Marco Asensio is one of these players that is very clinical, and maybe he's not ready to start for Real Madrid, but as a fringe player for Real Madrid, or as a player who can come in the second half and make a difference, he's a great player, and I'm sure that Real Madrid is very aware of that. Real Madrid is in a very good moment. It's in a very good moment, playing with plenty of confidence. They know what they are doing, and it's not only the mentality. They are very good. I repeat this constantly. Their players are fantastic. Militao, Courtois, Modric, Kroos, Benzema, and Vinicius are probably between the best 20 players in the world. Really. That's why Real Madrid is cruising and making it so well this season, apart from La Liga, where they had a couple of dips in their form. Chelsea, it's a terrible side right now. The other day against Brighton, by the way, Brighton was excellent. And Daniele, De Cervi, is one of my favorite managers in the world right now. He's absolutely
he has already contradicted all the skepticism when he arrived in England. There were lots of people skeptical. Why is this guy? What is he doing? Is he any good? He's excellent.
That's the league. Yeah, the usual question. Who cares about knowing the league or not? The important
these days, by the way, the question, does he know the league, is such a stupid question. Anyone can get a subscription, watch any kind of football they want, and they get prepared. So don't listen to that.
Anyway, that's spot on. And Brighton killed Chelsea. And there was a moment in that game, in the 57th minute, between Chelsea and Brighton, when Chelsea brought onto the pitch, I think it was Joe Felix, Reece James, Mateo Kovacic, and one more striker, Hakim Ziyech. And those 4 players, they've got a market value combined probably of 250 million, really, and 4 players with a lot of value left the pitch as well. That was pretty much like a stock exchange movement in that moment that Chelsea did, and yet they didn't make it. They've got a squad that doesn't make any sense, players that cost a lot of money, like Badiashile, for example, that I don't even know if he's a good footballer or not. Same thing applies to Zakaria. Probably I've seen him in Bundesliga, but I think that he's clearly a misfit for Chelsea as it stands. This side doesn't know what they are doing. They can't score goals. The other day, Brighton played so much better than them, and the goal that Conor Gallagher scored against Brighton was just lucky because the ball came deflected from a defender. They played very badly, and I think Real Madrid should win this game. So Real Madrid to win 250 is totally acceptable for me. But since for the safe bet, I have to go probably. Logic tells me that I have to go for something more probable. I'm going to go for a double chance for my safe bet, and I recommend a double chance for Real Madrid here individually for this game too. That pays 143. And then Karim Benzema to score or assist, something that he's doing normally. 173 is very good value. Last season in Stamford Bridge, he scored a couple of goals as well. Why not to believe that too? And one more that I would like to flag. There is a range of bets there, from the double chance for Real Madrid to the Real Madrid to win. Well, Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Real Madrid is something that I very much encourage you to think about as well. 156.
Actually, Dani, I think we can see the perfect script for Real Madrid, because Chelsea, they have to try, even if they are not scoring goals. Of course, if they want to qualify, they have to try. And Real Madrid is very, very dangerous in the counter. We saw it against Liverpool, for instance, at Anfield.
Yes, and it's one of those games that Real Madrid don't necessarily have to win, so be careful maybe for the number of goals scored in the second half. Real Madrid might have already been qualified and home and dry, so they might not be a high-scoring game after all. But yes, I mean, no chances Chelsea are going to overturn this one. Look, to overturn a 2-0 deficit, you do need a sort of performance and a sort of environment similar to when Liverpool beat Barcelona in 2019 and they scored 4. But that was a team that was flying and the confidence was really high. Nothing like Chelsea. So it's not impossible to do it, but you need the right element at the right time. Chelsea only 1 goal in the last 5. 12 defeats in the Premier League. This is the team has lost more games in the domestic league of the 8 teams that are in the quarterfinals, although Inter are very close to the negative record. Only scored 3 goals, Chelsea, in 3 occasions this season. So even statistically, they are not doing it. They scored 3 goals against Wolves, 3 goals against Leicester, and 3 goals against Milan. Okay, in the Champions League, they won 4 and drew 1, so they have a decent record there, but I think this record is probably going to be broken. They are 11th in the Premier League, worst finish since 1996, and in the last 2 years, the only Champions League defeat at home for Chelsea was against Real Madrid. So everything points out to a Real Madrid win, or at least, as Alvaro said, to Real Madrid not to lose this one and meet Man City in the semi-final. Real Madrid, Asian handicap 0 here for me is the angle, 191. If they draw, you get your money back, so it's a little bit safer. But if they win, as they should do, you almost double your stake.
To be optimistic from the Chelsea's point of view, Dani, in the previous round against Borussia Dortmund, they were able to come back after a 1-0 defeat in Germany, and they played probably the best game in the season.
Yeah, that's true. And in Dortmund, they had a lot of chances. And I think Joao Felix probably played his best game there. But despite Chelsea having early chances at the Bernabeu, I had the feeling if Madrid had to score 3 or 4 to qualify, they would have probably racked up the goals. So I cannot see them. Chelsea are going to finish the season very, very badly, probably finish 10th or 9 and rebuild for next season. But yeah, this is the last game for them in the Champions League, at least for the next 12 months for sure.
Well, yeah. Abraham here under 2.5 goals. Fox 5 thinks that Chelsea can get a good result, that Real Madrid won't win again in Stamford Bridge. The odds are very good, as you both pointed out, for Real Madrid draw no bet. For instance, if you are audacious enough to go for Chelsea to qualify, the odds are 9.0, the best odds we have. So, of course, very big price, very difficult for Lampard side, since he came back 3 defeats for Frank Lampard. Not good numbers. Next game on Tuesday, much more open, of course. Napoli, Milan, because we were saying in the first leg, of course, Napoli was very favorite, but yes, Milan know how to play this game. Historically, they beat Napoli only 2 weeks ago in the Maradona 4-0, and they have one of the best keepers in Italy and in Europe. Maignan, key performance to kept a clean sheet against Napoli. Perhaps we shouldn't take in consideration what happened in Serie A, Dani, at the weekend. But Napoli, probably with Osimhen, without Zambuanguisa, do you see them coming back and qualifying for the semi-finals? This is very, very open.
I see a Napoli that is getting a little bit nervous by the day and a little bit twitchy. It's been like that for the last 10, 15 days, inexplicably, to be fair, because they have already won the title in February, really. But now they approach that game with a little bit of extra pressure, the game of Milan, and they lost it the only way they could have lost it, by giving up possession, getting caught on the break, and Milan then being able to shut them down, especially down the middle, despite Magnan being, of course, the best player in the pitch. Now, that game played with Osimhen, I think he ends up differently, because Osimhen at the moment is the best striker in Serie A. He's Napoli top scorer. We saw him at the weekend when he came on for 20 minutes. He smashed the crossbar. Had there been more 5-6 minutes more on the game, probably he would have scored. And of course, Napoli physically, they've not been great recently. I think they peaked in January when they beat Juventus 5-1. Back then, they had 19 points on the second place in Italy. Now they've come down to 14 points lead. And since then, their physical condition has gone down a little bit. Maybe because Palletti hasn't done a lot of turnover. Maybe because they've been so good and so impressive at the beginning of the season. So the thing, maybe the worrying side for Napoli is that they're getting nervous. You know, they commit a lot of fouls. The Zambanguissa sending off. Kim that was booked got another booking. So these are the signs that, you know, the team that's been so dominant shouldn't show. 13 points in the last 7 in Serie A Napoli. So it's not all bad, really, but they haven't scored in 3 of the last 4 games. And I put it down to the fact that Osimhen was there. Look, both teams made a lot of rotations at the weekend, which makes sense when you have to play 3 games in 6 days, especially one is a semi-final, you know, is a quarterfinal, potential semi-final. You need to make changes. But of the 2 teams, the happiest is definitely going to be Milan, because they made 10 changes at Bologna. They played against a very informed side and drew. They actually could have won it in the end. It confirmed what we already know, that without Leao, without Giroud, without Diaz, they don't score. They always struggle this season, Milan, before and after Champions League games. But, you know, the omen is good for them. They won the 3 last games in the San Paolo, and obviously they got an historical pedigree. They haven't conceded in the last 5 Champions League games, Milan. But if you look at the strength of the 2 teams and the way they performed, Napoli are 22 points ahead of Milan, and they score 17 goals more in Serie A. So, you know, there shouldn't be really a lot of discussion here. I can see it this way. If Napoli scores early, the game could be really, really cagey, because then Milan can shut it down. And obviously, no one will want to risk it not to go to extra time. If the game is still 0-0 until 40, 50 minutes, you maybe can expect over 1.5 goals in the second half. Napoli will throw everything at Milan, who are lethal in the counter-attack. But look for that early goal. If in the 20 minutes it's still 0-0, I don't know, maybe more goals to come in the second half. But if Napoli scores early, then I think it becomes very, very cagey. My sensation here is that I don't think Napoli is going to go scoreless for more than 3 games in a row. I think Osimhen is going to play a massive part. And I think Milan could nick a goal in the counter. So I'm going to go for over 2.25 goals here, 193, which means if there are only 2 goals, you lose half your stake. But do consider Napoli to qualify at 220, okay? Napoli to qualify extra time and penalties. They've been the best side in Italy by any stretch of imagination. So don't discard it just yet. But I'm going to go for the over 2.25 goals, 193.
Milan, they've won in the last 3 trips to Napoli, and the Napoli, Alvaro, they should have learned to be patient against Milan, not to be hit in the counter as they did in the Serie A game, where they lost 4-0 with only 1 goal. They are already in the tie. They are level, so they don't have to get crazy and attack like the tie is over.
I know. I think that what they are thinking about probably now is about scoring that first goal. You know, that's the thing. I do believe that it's a tricky moment for Napoli because they've been the best side in Italy all campaign round, really, and suddenly they see themselves in this situation. I think that the league, they're going to win it, but they won't have the feeling of relief until they do. And in the Champions League, I think that there was at least the hope that to qualify for the semifinals, because despite what happened a couple of weeks ago at the Diego Armando Maradona ground with Milan beating them 4-0, the truth is that I think that Napoli has been a better side than them, but Milan has been competitive when it mattered. In the Champions League, they produced already 5 clean sheets in a row, and that is very, very interesting because I think that they have adjusted their level or even raised their level as the challenge has become more difficult. They did it against Tottenham. So far, they are doing it against Napoli. And they've got a few players who are standing out. For example, for me, Brahim Diaz has been one of the good players in the last couple of weeks against Napoli. Was very good as well because in the first goal of and the only goal of Milan, I think that Brahim does the best move of the whole sequence, just dribbling past 2 players with his hip. Basically, he moved his hip, and the other 2 players didn't know where the ball was, and Brahim did it. Milan rotated massively in the weekend, so I think that they are giving a lot of importance to this game against Napoli. Napoli rotated as well. For example, Kvaratskhelia just played in the second half. I don't know, Daniele, one question for you. If Ndombele is fit for this game, because for me, it looks like he's the natural replacement for Zambo Anguissa, but Ndombele wasn't in the squad this weekend.
He was suspended. He was suspended against Verona, but I think
Thank you.
Spalletti is thinking to putting Elmas there because he's playing more minutes, more used to do that. But yeah, Ndombele has been a bit of a fringe player, but yeah, against Verona was suspended.
Okay, good to know. Elmas played in offensive positions against Milan, and now probably he will play in midfield, as Daniele says. But anyway, I think that this is going to be quite a contested one. I struggle to believe or to think what's going to happen, the final outcome of it. But for example, I like Napoli to score in the first half. That pays 187. The truth is that against Milan, they had their chances all game round and also in the first half. And, Milan goalkeeper was fantastic. But Napoli to score in the first half is a good one. 187. You just need them to score 1 goal. And the reason why I was typing a few things while Daniele was breaking down this game is because the shot market has just arrived. And I like it. For example, 6 shots on target or more for Napoli pays 2.2. And I think that this is very interesting. Or 5 shots on target for Napoli in the game, it pays 153. I think that Napoli is going to attack more because they know how to do it. And after scoring the first goal, if they do, I believe that they will carry on attacking. So I could be... I am pretty confident that the shots market will happen. So check it out because there is good money in there. 6 shots on target, 2.2.
And what about the corner market? We had some question here, guys. Going for Napoli, I guess. Asian handicap Napoli, since they will gonna attack more.
Absolutely. I think that this is something that you should look at, and any value over 1.5, I think that it should be taken into consideration. Yes, for an individual bet, definitely.
And Dani, one question, because I think I read something that you wrote. We have a comment here from Fox5. Spalletti's pattern is getting too predictable. Apart from the nervousness, can this play a role as well? Do rivals already know what Napoli is going to do?
Well, I think they can work out that if they shut down the middle and if they man-mark them and they are aggressive, especially on Lobotka, Napoli are less dangerous, especially through the middle channels, and they're only left the wide areas. But that can be applied to most of the teams. The problem is, can an opposition do it for 90 minutes and then be good in possession? Lazio has done it when they won at the Maradona 1-0. Milan has done it more in a counter-attacking style and with a cut from inside from Leao and Diaz. I don't think they are predictable, but obviously, if the opposition play an intensive game and they man-mark them and they are on top of them for 90 minutes, obviously they do shut them down, but that's obvious. But Napoli are trying different solutions. For example, they're trying to push Di Lorenzo more and more into the areas, into attacking areas, because he's good in the box and he's very, very mobile. So I think they got the countermeasures as well as that. But the return of Osimhen, it's absolutely key. I mean, you could see Elmas struggling all day long against the Milan defender. Osimhen can hold up the ball, can play long, can play on the spaces, can run in behind. He's very good in the air. It's going to be a different game.
Well, most of our audience are going for Milan, actually, for a double chance for Milan. It pays very well. You can see the high odds for Milan to win, for instance, 5.4. Milan to qualify, they are already favorites. For the bookies, 1.7. 2.2 for Napoli to qualify. Funny, this sport, that's why we love it, called football, because Milan, they are not winning any game in the Serie A. Then they go to the Maradona, they score 4, they go to the Champions League, and they have a foot in the semi-finals, and even the hero of the first leg was Benacer. No one takes in consideration this player, and he was the hero and the scorer of that game. Perhaps we knew that Man City were better than Bayern Munich, but not that better. Actually, we thought Bayern Munich was going to compete more. They had their chances, to be honest. So let's jump into the game we have on Wednesday, talking about Bayern Munich. As I said, they had their chances in the Etihad. They didn't convert, and then they had Upamecano in the back. We had some comments in the previous week telling us that Bayern defense was awful, and for sure Upamecano's game is now in the Hall of Fame of the worst performances in the Champions League, perhaps together with Sporting Lisbon goalkeeper Adan in the group stages. Thinking about this game, Bayern Man City, Alvaro, if you are a Bayern fan, there is absolutely no news to be optimistic. Also in the Bundesliga, they were not able to beat Hoffenheim with all the problems involving Sadio Mane. It looks like Tuchel is arriving in a dressing room full of problems that we didn't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There are even more things Manuel Neuer didn't like, that the goalkeeping coach and his personal friend was also sacked from Bayern. I think that the Mane and Sané incident don't look good at all. And, I think that there are things to fix at Bayern. Fortunately for them, there is another side in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund, that doesn't capitalize on Bayern's mistakes, and Bayern probably will win the league, and Borussia Dortmund will think, okay, this year we really did have a chance, because Bayern changed the manager mid-season through. But I think that we shouldn't overlook the importance of individual mistakes and individual brilliance in a football game. Because I think, for example, that the Bayern and Manchester City game was rather contested, very leveled, until Rodri scored that screamer with his left foot, by the way. And up to that point, I think that Bayern did a decent game at the Etihad ground. And then in the second half, Upamecano had a terrible time. And those individual mistakes were unforgivable. And to the point that I don't understand why Thomas Tuchel doesn't take into consideration playing with Daley Blind. I know that he is not a natural center back. He prefers to be in more advanced positions. But if Upamecano doesn't know how to play the ball from the back, and you want to play like that, and with a goalkeeper like Sommer, who is definitely struggling with that more than Neuer, why don't you put Daley Blind to give some consistency to the ball play? A little bit of that, some security at the back. I think that those are things that they should be considering moving ahead. But yeah, Manchester City has it done. I think that they are pretty much in the semi-finals. Of course, you cannot discard Bayern, but Manchester City is playing with a lot of confidence. They got 10 wins in a row. They are in this stage of the season in which they normally don't fail, at least in the Premier League, and then in the Champions League, let's see what happens with them against Real Madrid especially. But there are so many positives. Number one, Erling Haaland has scored 47 goals this season already. And Haaland to score in this game pays really good money. Really good money. So good that I'm going to keep it for my ACCA, because Haaland to score pays 191. John Stones' position has been really interesting this season, and I think that the reason for some debate about Pep Guardiola using the center backs as midfielders or fullbacks and how good he's doing that. Kevin De Bruyne, the other day, he got praise from Pep Guardiola after losing the ball to Ndidi and giving a lovely assist to Erling Haaland, not for the assist, but for winning the duel. That's one of the reasons why Kevin De Bruyne this season has been sometimes on the bench, deployed, because Pep Guardiola thought that Kevin De Bruyne could have given more, and then Bernardo Silva's game against Bayern was phenomenal. One of these players that I think that we don't praise a lot because he doesn't have a trademark move. You know, Kevin De Bruyne, we know that he gives that assist to the second post. We know that this player, or Thierry Henry could actually send it to the second post and score beautiful goals. Bernardo does everything very well, but he doesn't have a trademark move, and maybe that's why he doesn't excel, or he doesn't have the opinion or the high regard of many people that he was phenomenal as well. I cannot see Manchester City dropping their level here and losing this tie. So I'm going to go for Haaland to score, yes. And then, since the draw is good enough for Manchester City, I'm going to keep it a little bit simple here. A draw at 20 minutes, 153. I think that this is good enough. Bayern will attack more, but Manchester City is very good at defense. Or even a draw at 30 minutes, 183. I love this too.
And perhaps as well, Dani, both teams to score 1.5 could be a good one for ACCA. We know how dangerous Man City are, and of course Bayern, they need to attack, and they had chances at the Etihad Stadium, as Alvaro was saying.
They had chances, and I was surprised they couldn't score. I mean, after all, in the top 5 leagues in Europe, only 2 teams have 5 players who are in double figures. One is Real Madrid and one is Bayern Munich. So they do have firepower. They do have, of course, the chances to hurt opposition, but they didn't. And against PSG, after all, you know, they created a lot of chances. Of course, PSG and Man City cannot be compared, but we're looking at playing a top side in Europe. Let's see what happens with the Choupo-Moting. Let's see what happens with Mane, whether he's playing or not. But I think Manchester City are not going to leave anything to Bayern Munich. They're going to go for the jugular. These are kind of games where you cannot really drop your concentration. We are talking about the elite players and the elite teams in world football. So you cannot really give anything to the opposition. I think Manchester City are going to go there to finish the job, to score as early as possible, and to put the tie to bed. By the way, Manchester City are, of course, as you can see the odds here on your screen, the favorites to lift the trophy. Opta have done a sort of statistical analysis. Who are the favorites? Manchester City, 45% favorite to win the Champions League. The second team is very surprising. We'll tell you later. They won 10 in a row, by the way, Manchester City. And yeah, they stepped up a gear. You can tell they're going to win the league. I'm sure they're going to beat Arsenal. And they might in for an historic treble. By the way, they only lost 1 game out of 20 versus German oppositions. Can Bayern Munich restore a little bit of pride here, perhaps, and avoid a heavy beating? I think they could. I'm going to go for a conservative one. Asian handicap 0 in the first half for Bayern Munich. Price 207. So if it's a draw the first half, you get your money back. But if they score the first goal and they can hang on to it, then you win. I think it's a very good return. But no doubt about Man City in the semi-final, potentially even in the final. Well, I don't want to say Man City in the final. It's a bit too early. But yeah, Man City qualified.
Be careful, Dani. Be careful.
We saw the
semi-finals last season at the end. Look,
Edu, let's put it this way. If Man City doesn't win it this year, they would never win. Okay. Well, okay, maybe next year if they keep Haaland, but if this is the best chance they have to win in the Champions League, and if they don't win the Champions League, I'm afraid it's a failure. They should be winning the Champions League.
Wait, I just want to say something here. Why, if they don't win it this year, they won't have a bigger chance or the same chance next season?
Because some players might come
the quality of the contenders is really good. I mean, they have played against Bayern, against Real Madrid.
The other team might strengthen. Next season, they might have a key injury. Haaland's been fit most of the time. I mean, everything is falling into place and they're playing brilliantly. And they have the chance to face in the final an underdog anyway. So I think if they get to the final and don't win it this year, they're never going to have as good chance as this year. They might win it, but I think A, they need to get to the final, B, they need to win it. And if they don't win it, I think he's a failure because
so winning the Champions League, not winning the Champions League is a failure.
For Man City is a failure. Yes.
Why?
Even perhaps last season was a failure.
Because is a machine built to win the Champions League. It's not a machine built to win the Premier League. I think it's almost a given they win the Premier League, or they are there until the very last minute. They gotta win the Premier League, and they haven't done it for never, and they haven't done it under Pep Guardiola. I think the way they've been built, they gotta win it. That's it. Otherwise, it's always gonna be a failure.
By the way, same can be said about Bayern Munich. It's not enough to win the Bundesliga. We've seen it with Nagelsmann issue. Last season, they lost against Villarreal. And if this season they cannot even compete against Man City, I think you can get out. But if you are not competing against Man City, you got 3 in the first leg. Let's see how it turns. This one is going to be a massive failure also with the cup lost also under Tuchel, so another bad season, I would say, also for Bayern Munich, always one of the candidates to win absolutely everything in Europe. Let's jump into the next game. The last one, Inter Benfica, and here we were absolutely surprised. Same can we said about football in my comment with Milan and Napoli. Dani, Inter, they are falling apart in Serie A. They are not able to win any game. They are not scoring any goal, no matter the chances they have. We saw it also against Monza with Lukaku missing a lot of chances. This is a team that is not scoring. And then you go to Duluth, you don't suffer that much, and you convert your chances. Praise to Inter. They have almost 1.5 foot in the semifinals.
Look, 12 defeats in the league for Inter, the same amount of Chelsea. But yet, according to the statisticians at Opta, they are the second favorite to win the Champions League. 16.2% ahead of Real Madrid, 16%, and ahead of Napoli, 10.7%. I mean, I think it's...
Do they explain why?
It's statistical, because obviously, because Real Madrid are on the same side of Manchester City, the percentages, they decrease. But I am surprised that Inter have given more chances to win the Champions League than Napoli. Of course, considering Napoli have lost the first leg. So it's all statistical, but the fact that Inter are considered the second potential winner of the Champions League, a team that this season has been so hit and miss, and 12 defeats in Serie A, I think it's baffling. But he also tells you how they have transformed themselves during the European nights. You know, they kept Benfica at bay. Benfica was scoring for 13 consecutive games in the Champions League, and they didn't score against Inter. Yes, they had a couple of chances, but mostly was Inter controlling the ball, controlling the game. And I think that game plan suit them really well. At the moment, because they're not very good in possession, they're a bit slow, they struggle to not to create chances. They do create chances. They struggle to convert them. I think for them it's better to wait, and then with their possession, tire the oppositions out and pounce in the right moment. Look, from the weekend, defeat against Monza, same old story, a lot of shots, no conviction, no goals, of course. The only good news is the return of Çalhanoğlu could be important, especially if Inter wants to keep the ball well and maybe hurt Benfica with some shots from the distance. The only doubt is whether Dzeko is going to play ahead of Lukaku. I think Lukaku physically is better at the moment than Dzeko, but Dzeko helps in the possession game, helps dropping deep, almost is an added midfielder there, and he did help a lot against Benfica. But, you know, against Benfica at the beginning, at the first leg, everyone played the perfect game. The likes of Bastoni, Barella, even Correa when he came on. Darmian was magnificent. I think there is also a factor linked to experience. Inter average age in that game was 29 years old. Benfica average age was 23 years old. I think sometimes experience count. Benfica were without Otamendi, obviously a very important player there. But if you look at the home form of Inter recently, is worrying. 3 consecutive home defeats without scoring. This is a historical negative record. Over 100 shots in the last 5 games in Serie A to produce 2 goals, 1 from the penalty spot, 4 points in the last 7 games. The conundrum, the absurdity of all of this is that probably one between Inter and Milan might reach the Champions League final, but not playing Champions League next season because they finish 5th or 6th in Serie A. Potentially, even both of them could finish outside the top 4 and reach the Champions League final and lose it against Man City. Okay, so it is really difficult, really
or
difficult.
Real Madrid.
Or Real Madrid. Oh, sorry, I think it's gonna be Madrid. It's gonna be difficult choices for managers. They need to do a lot of rotation, thinking about the next game. So yeah, by the way, Inzaghi's under pressure. If he loses against Benfica and they're out, he's out. They're gonna sack him. That's for sure. They're gonna end his contract, but probably he's out anyway unless he lifts the Champions League trophy. They kept 6 clean sheets in Champions League. Inter. By the way, Onana is the keeper who's made the most saves in the Champions League. So don't look too much at the clean sheet. Look as well as the quality of the player. We know Benfica have lost 3 in a row. I can see a similar game plan. Under 2.5 goals here, 193. I think that's the key. Inter have become very good at defending without parking the bus. And I think that's the best quality they got at the moment. And when they move the ball well, they can put the opposition out of position, really. Under 2.5 goals, 193 for me.
I was going to flag also this under 2.5 goals. Maurice was asking about it. Alvaro, do you give any chance to Benfica to overcome this very bad result in Dallas?
No. I think that the result was very bad, and Benfica is going through a difficult period right now. Porto is close to them, is closing the gap Benfica had at the top of the table, and I don't think that Benfica will just come back from their defeat at home. It's good that for them that Otamendi is back. He was back in the weekend. Ba is still out. But generally speaking, I think that this is the time for Inter. I think that Inter is going to make it to the semifinals. There are a few markets that I would like to flag. Number one is Romelu Lukaku. It's true that this is a bad season for them. To his standards, but in the Champions League he has scored 3 goals, as many as in the Serie A, and he has scored important goals. He scored against Porto in the 1-0 win. He scored against Benfica the other day. Romelu Lukaku to score pays 263. Of course, check out if he's starting or not, because Daniele said that Edin Dzeko could be considered as well to play as a number 9, and both strikers offer different characteristics and capabilities into Inter's attack. And I also like the Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Inter. That pays 186 as well, and I think it's pretty good. I mean, if they draw, you only suffer, have a lose. If they win, you win. I think that this is a good chance for them. Benfica, I think that they are suffering even more than Napoli right now. Both sides started the season brilliantly. The first 2/3 of the season, they were very good. But right now, Benfica is crumbling, and the crumble of Benfica is really remarkable, more radical than the crumble of Napoli, certainly. When it comes to Inter, I think that not only the experience, but the fact that many players were rotated in the weekend tells you that Inter was clearly focusing on this quarterfinal fixture. And yeah, I'm going to back them with a minus 0.25 handicap here.
They lost to Chavez at the weekend. For instance, by the way, both teams to score 2.10 in the 4 games in the first leg. We saw both teams to
Chavez,
score
not the politician and the team, obviously.
No, the team in Portugal. Both teams to score 2.10. We didn't see any both teams to score in the first leg. Perhaps in this one, especially in the Bayern Man City, we see a goal feast. Let's see. Well, this is it. We are almost ready to enjoy the semi-finals. And before, of course, we have to see your best bets. Dani Fisichella.
Napoli Milan over 1.5 goals. 140. By the way, Giroud is doubtful. Rebic might be playing. Not good news for Milan.
Indeed. Alvaro?
A double chance for Real Madrid, 143.
I like this one as well. And Yorak, Alvaro?
Later I'll tell you something else. A double chance for Real Madrid. Haaland to score. Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Inter. Altogether 508.
So easy to score goals when you see Haaland, right? Even in this weekend, the penalty looks like he didn't take the penalty too good, just in the angle, and the other goal was just brilliant with a chip in front of the goalkeeper. Dani, your ACCA?
Chelsea Real Madrid double chance X2, Napoli Milan, sorry, double chance 1x, Bayern Munich Manchester City both team to score, and Inter Benfica under 3.5 goals, total 375.
Okay, hopefully we are successful. Again, Alvaro, you were going to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, something about the predictor and all that, Inter having a bigger chance than Real Madrid and all that. I'm not 60 years old. I believe that artificial intelligence and computers and data are very important in the football analysis. But, for example, I saw the football predictor for La Liga today. And, that brilliant computer, that astute technology thing said that the teams in the relegation zone in La Liga are the more likely to get relegated. Thank you. I didn't know that.
No,
Thank you for letting me know that the teams that are 18th, 19th, and 20th
But
in La
depends
Liga.
if it's the same computer. I think this one is better.
Yeah,
The one
but come on. Sometimes the artificial intelligence or the data analyst intelligence, computers, IT, they say things that are pretty obvious, aren't they?
We have to say that your tips are not made by artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. It's Dani and Alvaro with the pencil, the pen, thinking, watching football, looking at the data, everything for you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, just press the like, subscribe, and keep following us. Bye-bye. Good luck.
Bye-bye. Ciao.